Okay, you want to kick this one off?
Sure. So, Casshern Sins, episode 3. Forgot the name, but that's okay, it's not important.
Okay, I want to make note of this really quick before I forget. If you've seen our Darker Than Black Gemini of the Meteor reaction to the entire show, we were talking like the entire time while watching it, basically, and because it's stupid, and we're pointing out all the stupid shit. So
as it happened, because it didn't matter because we were talking over shit, so you weren't missing out on the show. You were just enjoying the lulls of us making fun of what was stupid, which was all of it.
And if you haven't seen that, I recommend it. I'll put an annotation in this video to go watch it.
Watch it.
It's great.
It's great.
But
the show ain't.
But so while we're watching this show, though, we're like completely silent and just staring at the screen.
Well, I mean, we're actually paying attention.
We're totally like engrossed in what's going on. Because this is a show where you have to pay attention because everything is important, and there's like a lot of details that are sprinkled into the dialogue.
Well,
that if you're not paying attention, you can miss something that's really meaningful.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that goes into one of my first things that I wanted to talk about is that the thing that I really like about the show is that they really deal with a lot of like philosophy and stuff. Like when they were talking. Well, I guess we should say in this episode, Casshern meets up with this human named Akos, and he actually is looking for that robot commune that
Casshern just inadvertently killed.
Right. So they end up traveling together. And I was just thinking about, and what, like I was saying, they do a lot of philosophy, and a lot of the dialogue between Casshern and Akos, like the one that's immediately coming to mind is the part where they are talking after he caught that little like lizard thing, and he's like talking about how humans are flawed and we contradict ourselves, and they really put a lot of meaningful dialogue into it. So if you're not paying attention, you're not gonna get the most out of that dialogue, and some of it is really, really good, so can't be talking over it.
Like how Akos challenged Casshern to not run away from his sins.
Right, which led to his confrontation with Frender, because
he more or less surrendered himself to...
Well, he was pretty much owning up to it. He's like, Frender, I've done you wrong, man.
Do whatever you want to me, because I deserve it.
Right. I was going to say, I wanted to make mention that I kind of like how this show handles episodicness.
Yeah, because there's meaning in those episodic, in these episodes, these one-off characters, and you learn things from them. They all have points. They have a point to them.
They help build the world and the character of Casshern as a whole. So they kind of they aren't just throwaway episodes. And also I like that, like at the beginning of this episode, they kind of have almost a conclusionary thing for the last episode where they have, Casshern at the commune of robots just absolutely, looking at himself, looking at his hands, doing the what have I done routine, because he's just so riddled with guilt because of what he has done and the atrocity he's just committed, which then they continue on to the next episode again with the guy looking for the robot commune. So they kind of play off each other. It's not just completely throwawayable. Like, it feels like they're more together than your typical episodic that don't really even mention back to the other episodes. So
yeah, and one thing that I want to mention about the series as a whole is the I'd call it very artsy but not pretentious. Like I typically associate the term artsy with pretense. But Casshern Sins is very artsy without being pretentious. Like, there's a lot of shots of, like, scenery or still frames of silence with no dialogue happening. But these shots are interesting to look at and not, like, trying to shove a ton of symbolism in your face or something like that.
They're more of silent moments of reflection, more so than anything else. Which is nice, especially considering, like I was saying, they have a lot of meaningful dialogue between the characters, and so sometimes you just need to think about what they just said.
Yeah, those moments that you take it in, take like what happened, what happened in previous scenes and take in like the world that they're showing you.
Mm-hmm. Kind of an introspective moment, more so than, oh, look at the pretty art, look at it.
Yeah, the art is fantastic, by the way.
It's really great.
It's one of the best Madhouse series out there. As far as favorite Madhouse series, it's my second favorite, second only to Kobato. But in terms of visuals, it's some of the most unique stuff out there.
It has a great atmosphere to it too. Just the wide shots of the just sprawling wastes really kind of give you a sense of how ruined this world is, and really kind of makes it interesting.
It's bleak. Yeah.
Although this episode really kind of had quite a bit more humor than probably the rest of the series combined.
Yeah. This is like one of the only episodes where there's actually
levity.
There's actual comedy anywhere. And there's kind of some in a very tiny amount in the very first episode where Ryuze puts on that robot and like pretends to be the robot. It's like, oh, kill Casshern, and then like it crumbles and she just smiles.
That's really morbid though, really more so.
Yeah, it was morbid, so it wasn't really like a moment that you could laugh at. So
no, but with Akko's, I really liked Akko's a lot because, again, just the dialogue between him and Casshern really kind of revealed a lot about him and Casshern as characters, and he was really funny a lot of the time, so he was enjoyable to watch, although he did bite the dust at the end. Spoiler alert. So,
we're assuming you've watched this episode already. That's the only reason you'd be listening to us talk about it.
But
that's the presumption anyway.
But it's interesting to see humans in this show because up to this point we'd seen only robots. Although I will say that the thing that had always had bugged me the first time we watched this and has bugged me ever since is that it's so hard sometimes to tell whether or not it's a robot or a human.
Yeah, I hate that's something that's kind of annoyed me. Like, well, one thing that also ties into that is that how they can tell that Casshern hasn't rusted at all just by looking at him instantly. But then like some of these robots that I look at, they look like they don't have any rust on them either, but then they like people know that they have rust anyways. Other robots know that they have rust on them, and I'm just like, I don't see it though. Like, I don't know.
Well, I mean, even like Ryuze, it's like, I mean, I'm pretty sure the first time we watched this, I didn't know she was a robot until the end. Like, I was like, is she a robot? Is she a human? She doesn't.
Spoiler alert, she's a robot. But I don't think that's such a big deal.
I'm just not. I mean,
it's hard to tell in this. With this series, it's safe to assume it's a robot until proven otherwise.
Until it starts talking about shit, and so I mean, like, it's just that, like, I mean, that's just a little gripe about the show, is that it always confuses me that it's like, are you a human or are you a robot? So sometimes it's hard to tell. But yeah, I was gonna say I really liked the episode. Just, like, I even got kind of a little misty-eyed when Akos died. So
yeah, his little going out narration was nice.
Mm-hmm. Now, just out of curiosity, do you think it was Ryuze that closed his eyes at the end, or? Well, it just makes sense to me because Ryuze kind of let him go because she wanted him to see what he did. So I would assume she was keeping close tabs on him in order to, when she deems that his lesson is sufficiently learned, then she could try and get him. So.
Yeah, because that's what you wanted to do, is make sure that make him learn the impact of what he did before she killed him, because she didn't see any point in taking revenge on him for stuff that he didn't even remember himself doing. Because
he has amnesia. I don't remember if they explained it later, but
that's one thing that I thought about earlier today when I was like thinking about watching Casshern Sins. I don't think that they ever explain it, which I think is a very big gripe. I don't remember. I'm 99% sure, though, that they don't explain it.
Maybe he just got robo-drunk on Jaeger bombs. I mean, that'd make me forget it, so.
But I think that amnesia is I think that's one thing that you need to do with amnesia if you're going to use that as a plot point, is at least explain how it happened. Because it's just like such an easy cop-out plot device, I guess.
Well, it's an easy cop-out plot device, but I like it in this setting just because...
Well, yeah, it works.
Just because it's interesting, because he has no idea, so he has that initial innocence, because he's just like, what am I? Who am I? What have I done? What is happening? So as he learns, you kind of learn, which again, that's kind of what amnesia does for you, but again, it's just interesting to see, because he has done so many bad things in the past. It's interesting to see him now with his newfound innocence because of his amnesia, just getting hit by wave after wave of, regret and guilt, as opposed to, knowing what he did and then just being like, oh yeah, that's right, I did that last week, that's cool. Alright.
Regardless, I think it's still important to explain what happened.
No,
to
I'm
make
not trying to excuse it. I'm just saying it.
That's just one of the problems with the series in general, is some things that I think are important. They leave a lot of things up to interpretation, which is fine. It's one thing that works in favor of the series, I think. But there's also many things that I think that they needed to explain that they didn't. And that's one of them. And we'll find out more later.
Oh, and just to go back, I guess, off the intro scene, again, this episode, it had even less than the previous two. I mean, they had a little bit more animation, but even less information. So it's getting even more and more pointless to have them there. So just saying, again, more waste of time on the episode. So.
Yeah, not until there's actually more to the scene, which will come later sometime.
Hopefully.
They should have just left it out until they got to the point where they're going to add more to it. Alright, anyways.
So yeah, that's episode 3.